Atha chettvimam dharmyam, atha chettvimam dharmyam, sangramam na karishyasi, sangramam na karishyasi, tata swadharmam kirtim cha, tata swadharmam kirtim cha, hitva papam avapsyasi, hitva papam avapsyasi. If you do not do it, that which is before you right now, then you will, number one, fail in your duty. Number two, you lose your reputation. Whatever you have earned till now as a great warrior, the person who does the right thing, you'll lose that reputation. And third, you will actually positively incur sin. Papa. Remember that in India, this is a common idea, the law of karma. The law of karma is, if you do what is right, you know what is right and you do it, that is called dharma. And if you do something, that has an effect. The effect of doing dharma is called punya. And that punya gives rise to a result in your life. The result of punya, literally if you translate punya, it will mean merit. The result of merit is sukha, happiness. If I consciously, deliberately do what I know to be wrong, that is called adharma. Not dharma, adharma. And the result of adharma is what is called papa, demerit. That's the closest word we have to sin. Demerit. And the demerit will give rise to an effect in our lives which is called dukkha, suffering, some kind of suffering. So all the suffering and happiness that we get in our lives is due to punya and papa in earlier lives maybe. And that punya and papa, merit and demerit, is earned by our own righteous conduct or unrighteous conduct. And here Krishna is saying, not only will you fail in your duty, not only will you lose your reputation, but you'll also positively incur adharma, that is papa. And the result of papa is dukkha, suffering. You will get suffering as a result of this. This is an argument based on, appealing to a person's sense of duty, sense of honor. You will lose your reputation. Often we say that, why should we care what other people think of you? Krishna will say, people will criticize you. Why should we care? This is true in one sense, but it's also not true in another sense. Our reputation in society is a good feedback, what today we might call feedback. Often we are delusional about ourselves. What other people say, you don't have to swallow it completely. But check, is it true? To what extent is it true? Who said that? Socrates, I think. Kabir Das also said it. Keep your critics near you. They keep you clean without soap and water. Yeah. Kabir Das also said it. Yes. Nindak nihari rakho. Keep those who criticize you near you so that they'll keep you clean without soap and water. Socrates also said something like that. Yes, that is true. So, listening to public opinion, the polls are not just for politicians. For us also, you don't have to take a poll, but there are interesting exercises that we do when you go through, say, an MBA, for example. So, what is your self-image? And what is the perceived image? That means what other people perceive. And you'd be surprised. Often it comes as a big blow, as a shock. On the whole, the result will always be this. We are nowhere near as good as we think we are. Nobody sees us as good as we think we ourselves are. But also the reverse. Nobody thinks of us as badly as we think of ourselves. Often people have low self-esteem, a lot of people. And they are very fine people actually. Other people see them as, no, you're not bad. You're not particularly great either. But somebody joked that most people think of themselves as better than average. That's statistically impossible. How can most people be better than average? Yeah. Sri Ramakrishna often use arguments like this. In midst of all his spiritual teaching, he would use a lot of common sense. There was this man who, in order to avoid the struggle in his village, fighting with poverty and keeping his family going, but he did generally really like Sri Ramakrishna, and he had a religious tendency also. See, it's not false when that person used to come and tell Sri Ramakrishna, I want to stay with you. I want to do spiritual practice, meditation and japa. And he used to do that too. And it's not that it was entirely a kind of made up thing. But it was also neglecting his duties at back home. His wife and kids were back home and they're suffering from poverty. One day Sri Ramakrishna said to him sharply, and who's going to take care of your wife and kids? The neighbors. And so he sent him back. See, Sri Ramakrishna, who encouraged people to come to solitude and practice meditation and spiritual disciplines, he sends this man back to samsara to take care of. You cannot become spiritual by escaping. Yeah. Escapism and spirituality are not the same thing. I myself have seen, we become monks by giving up all worldly duties, responsibilities, activities, and you enter a monastery. But when I was in the monastery, the first thing I thought, my first day itself, I thought that I'm going to be taught how to meditate and do puja and study the Gita and things like that. All that was there, but they said, here is a hostel with students who stay there. There are 40 kids there, go and look after them. I said, 40 kids? If I'd married, I would have had 1 or 2 kids maybe. 40 kids. Now, over the years, I got this feeling, maybe I should be like one of those wandering ascetics, stay by myself. And I did that. I took leave from the order and then I went off by myself into the Himalayas. There are times when I begged for food, and at least on one occasion I slept under a tree, more out of the adventure of it than the sheer necessity. But one thing, and I lived in a little cottage over the river, the Gangotri. So one thing I realized was that the structure of ashram life, where in a community you have to get up at this time, you have to attend prayers at this time, you have to sit with everybody and eat at a particular time, you have to clean your room, you have to go to the school and teach the kids, you have to go to the office and do the correspondence, this one after another throughout the day. And you have to do it because it's a community, you're part of it. And the time you have for meditation in the morning and the evening, I found over time that short time, though I'm tired and there's less time for meditation, but that was more effective than when you're completely left to yourself. At first, it's wonderful. I could meditate for hours and hours at a stretch, and I used to think, wow, I should have started with this. But then, 2 weeks is one thing and 20 years is something else. Yeah. So over a period of 2 months, the longest I did that was for 2 months at one stretch, I found that my day is sinking to a level lower than what I was doing in the ashram. Then that showed me that no, there is a value to structure in life. There is a value to duties in life. See, the duties in which God has put us, we struggle against it, but they are not against our spiritual life. They are actually helpful for our spiritual life. We are in a hurry. We want nirvikalpa samadhi right away. And my office work and picking up the kids from school, it's all disturbing me. Otherwise, I could have become enlightened long ago. Oh, that's what we think. Don't kid yourselves. It's because of you guys that I'm not enlightened. Oh, no. Not at all. It's because of family and job and society that we have attained the little bit of genuine progress that we have today. Yes. Yes.
Doesn't Thakur say in the Gospel
Yes.
that as you advance spiritually, your worldly duties start falling one by one?
True, he said that. Don't give up your duties by force. He used to give a particularly gruesome example of a wound. A scab is forming over it. If you scratch it, it'll start bleeding again. Let it heal, and the dead skin will fall off by itself. In the same way, your duties in samsara will slowly get reduced. What happens is when they do get reduced, we are so addicted to it. We don't think we are addicted, but we are addicted. People are addicted to it. Brought up kids, they have grown up, they have their own family now. Now we are eager to bring up the grandkids. Are you really wanted in your kids' families? Maybe at Thanksgiving, yes, but more than that? No. There should be a general process of being for being mature and elevating yourself above it. The old ashrama system, brahmacharya ashrama, garastha ashrama, vanaprastha ashrama, and sannyasa ashrama. That means first you are a student, a young person, getting ready for life. Then you are a married person. You have a house, a job, maybe you have a family, a partner, and then you go from that to a retired person. Retired is our word for it. Vanaprastha is a much more interesting word. It means the one who has gone to the forest. So, which means you withdraw. Not completely. You still give society the benefit of your wisdom and your expertise which you have gathered over the years, but you are not completely involved in samsara as much. And then finally you are ready to become a spiritual seeker all by yourself, a monk. If not formally, at least internally you are like that. That shows a process of maturation. I have had so many people tell me, I have known them, friends for example, who, when we were, before I became a monk, when we were in college, all they wanted was a fine job with a high-paying job and a family and a nice car to drive and a good place to live in and things like that. 20 years later, I meet them, and they've got exactly what they wanted. They don't see it that way, but I see it, literally. I know at least a couple of cases where, when I was about to become a monk, my friends asked, why are you becoming a monk? What's the big deal? And so we had this discussion about what do you want in life? And they had told me certain things. 20 years later, I see that the person has got all of them. And unhappy. Inevitably unhappy. Who's become happy with those things? But it's worthwhile going through that experience. Now what do you want? Now they get the feeling that, okay, I have got a job, I have got a wife or a husband, I have got a family, but I feel sort of trapped. Because in the sense begins to grow that this is it. There's nothing much more that's going to happen. Young people won't understand that. You wait for 20 years. You suddenly realize, if you're honest and a little realistic, that yes, this is it. It's only going to get worse from now on. Kids are going to grow up and go away. Body is going to get older and sicker and less capable. The world is going to move ahead without me. So all of these, inevitably they're going to happen. Now what does our society, unfortunately a modern society, has no antidote to this. Their only reply is, well, earn more, replace iPhone 7 with iPhone 8. That's the only answer. Little more of the same thing, but that's not going to solve it. What does the ashrama system of ancient India, in principle, what did they say? Grihastha ashrama, the householder stage. You see, the gradation of values, kama, artha, dharma, moksha. Pleasure. Notice that pleasure is, children, maybe teenagers, are pleasure-centric. But by the time you are in your 20s or 30s, how much of your time is spent in partying, in chasing pleasure? Very little, if any. Most of your time is spent in looking after the family, your job, maintaining things in the house and in your office and things like that. Most of your time is spent in fulfilling your responsibilities. Obviously. So that is called artha, one step higher. Kama, pleasure, chasing pleasure. And then artha, career, family responsibilities, social responsibilities. Beyond that, what's beyond that? You expand outwards. Dharma is higher than that. Not just for myself, not just for the family. Now that I have got this, expand beyond that. So when people will come and say, now what do I do with life? Now I'm in my 40s and I know, I've got it. I have a spouse and kids and a career. I sort of know it's going to go this way, but I sort of feel what else is going to happen in society? What else is going to happen to me in life? Now, he's not looking for a spiritual answer. If I say that, do you sit and meditate and breathe like this and meditate on Om? That's not quite what he's looking for. The answer given by that ashrama and the gradation of values is that you expand outwards. Now do something for the larger community. It's not an intuitive answer. How can I become happier? Instead of trying to make this person happier, try to make other people happier. You will see you'll be happier. This will not work for the average kid or teenager. They have to go through life and fulfill certain personal goals. And when that maturity comes, for some it comes much earlier, some it comes much later. Then expand outwards. A family does that. In a natural way, a family makes you less self-centered and more family-centered. Now it's more for the kids, more for the family. But then you have to expand beyond that. It's still biological. Family is biological. You have to expand beyond that. Community. People who need your help. It will make you happier. Swami Vivekananda said, unselfishness in the long run is more paying, but it requires maturity to understand that. We think, if I'm selfishly pursuing the goal, what's the goal? Make number one happy. Who's number one? I. Make this number one happy, then everything will be all right. You keep trying and it doesn't work. This number one is a black hole, can't be filled with anything. At one point, the maturity must come, I will do something for others. See, a lot of work has recently been done. These are very old things, but in a modern form, positive psychology is working on this. So in positive psychology, Martin Seligman, I think Authentic Happiness, there are websites. You can go and take the test and find out how happy you are. You're guaranteed to be less happy after the test than you were. Yeah. Very interesting tests. What Seligman found was, to put it very briefly, he said happiness is a function of three things. H is equal to P plus E plus M. Happiness is a function of pleasure, engagement, meaning. Pleasure, engagement, meaning. Pleasure is the first thing that we try to do when I want to be happy. So eat a cookie and go to your favorite restaurant or watch a movie. What we run towards to become happy is pleasure. And it does give an immediate burst of happiness. Some kind of little elevation it gives. But it's very limited. It's very limited. Why? First of all, it's transitory. The happiness that you get from eating a cookie is just few seconds. Once it's down your gullet, it's gone. The happiness is gone. Unhappiness starts after that. Then it's habit forming. Next time you need more of that or better variety of that. The law of diminishing marginal utility. In economics, each unit you consume gives you less and less satisfaction. So first cookie gives you a lot of happiness, second one little less, third one little less, fourth one nothing at all, fifth one you'll feel sick. So, diminishing marginal utility. Because of these reasons, and then there are so many other problems. For example, we change. The same thing which used to make you happy when you were a teenager no longer makes you happy. It will just irritate you. The same, our capacities are limited. How much will you eat? How many movies will you watch? How many vacations will you take? Capacity to enjoy, you'll get exhausted, you'll get tired, you will finally break down if you try to consume too much. So, all of these are limited. And therefore, pleasure is not the solution in our search for happiness. Luckily, there is something better. Seligman says engagement. Engagement is much greater happiness comes when you like what you are doing. If you are one of those fortunate people who enjoy your careers, whatever you're doing, it need not be a career. Sometimes if you don't enjoy the work that you're doing, hobby, people take up hobbies because of that. And activity. See, the difference between engagement and pleasure is this. Watching a game on TV is pleasure. Going out and playing the game is engagement. This is the difference. Actually playing a game out there might not be all pleasurable. It's hard work. But it gives happiness. It gives satisfaction. And so Seligman found invariably engagement would give more satisfaction than pleasure. Remember the equation. H, happiness, total happiness, is equal to, on one side is H, on the other side of the equation is pleasure, engagement, meaning. Engagement gives more happiness, lasting happiness compared to pleasure. But even there is a limit. Workaholic. They work day and night. But there are many people who after retirement they break down because there's nothing more in life. They feel meaningless, helpless. Nervous breakdown. Burnout. What is the term? Burnout. There is something which gives more happiness than even engagement. What is that? Meaning. A purpose, a higher purpose in life, a meaningful life. Usually, not always, but usually meaning involves other people. Where you can do something for other people. So he said, happiness is a function of pleasure, engagement, meaning. Pleasure gives momentary, immediate burst of happiness, but it's very little. And it's very problematic. Engagement gives more happiness than pleasure. And meaning in life, if you are lucky and fortunate enough to find a meaningful and purposeful life, and one clue to that, how to find meaning in your life is, what can I do for other people? How can I make other people happy? That will immediately give meaning to your life. So, these three. Now, when I read this, immediately what came to my mind was pleasure, engagement, meaning. Do you see kama, artha, dharma? Kama is pleasure, literally. You can map it. Engagement is, artha literally means wealth, but it means career, success, name and fame. In a general sense, artha is overall success and attainments in life. Higher than that, meaning and dharma you have to stretch. Dharma is a wide term, but you can stretch it to morality, meaning, a purposeful life. Moksha is beyond these three. Seligman does not include moksha. So these three, that's why at a certain point in life, you have to go beyond pleasure and your career. You have to expand outwards into what is called dharma. That gives more satisfaction. We have gone way off topic. Oh no, not really. Yeah, it's true. It's a good way to think. I'm not as happy as I want to be. All right, let me check.